This is Miss Humbert here. Today we're going to be doing your Unit 3 quiz 2 review. So we're getting ready for that quiz, and that actually is the end of Unit 3. So I put a little hashtag humor there for you. So let's go ahead and let's take a look now at number 1. Multiplying the monomials. So you want to multiply the coefficients and add the exponents. So we're going to do 4 times 3. So when you do 4 times 3, you get 12. So remember, you always multiply the coefficients. And then what you're going to do is you're going to add the exponents of the x. So when I take x to the third times x to the first, I'm going to get x to the fourth, because again, I'm adding those exponents. Then when I have y to the third times y to the fifth, I'm going to go ahead and add those exponents, and that's going to give me y to the eighth. Lastly, z to the first times z to the fourth. When I add z to the first times z to the fourth, add those exponents, I get z to the fifth. Now, none of those letters can be combined together, so that is your final answer for number 1. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at number 2. So for number 2, what we want to do first is simplify out this fraction 9 over 6. Well, both 9 and 6 are divisible by 3. So I'm going to go ahead and divide each of those by 3. 9 divided by 3 is 3, 6 divided by 3 is 2. So now I have that reduced fraction right there. So then I have x to the third divided by x to the fifth. Now remember, if you need to, you can write that as 3x's on top and 5x's on the bottom. Or if it's easier for you, just subtract the exponents. So what I'm going to do is cross off those x's. So then I notice that I have 2 x's left over, which is x squared. And since those x's are left over on the bottom, I'm going to write them on the bottom. Then I have y to the 6 over y to the third. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 y's on top, 1, 2, 3 y's on the bottom. And when I cancel those out, I end up with, that should have been 3. I had an extra y there. I end up with 3 y's on top. So that's going to be y to the third. So that's your final answer for number 2. Let's take a look at number 3. So this one is adding two polynomials. Now here's the biggest thing to remember. When you are adding things of like bases, you do not add the exponents. So we can only combine things that have like exponents. So we have 3x squared plus 2x squared. So I'm going to add 3 plus 2, and that's going to give me 5. And I'm going to keep x squared the same. I am not going to add those exponents. 2x minus 7x is going to be negative 5x. And then 5 plus 9 is going to be 14 when you add them together. Now, none of those terms can be added together because none of them have the same exponent. So that's our final answer. Notice that our exponents go in descending order with our constant at the end. That's standard form. You want all of your answers to be in standard form. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's take a look at number 4. So for number 4, we're subtracting. So what I like to do when we're subtracting is change all the signs of the second one. So 2x squared minus x squared is just going to give us x squared. 6x minus 2x is going to give us 4x. Negative 7 minus 3 is going to give us negative 10. So when you take two negative numbers and you add them together, they're going to get more negative. Okay? So now we've got number 4 done. Let's go ahead and take a look at number 5. So for number 5, we're going to take that x squared and distribute it in. So I'm going to take each of those and multiply them by x squared. Well, now when I distribute, I do add the exponents because here I am multiplying. Okay? I guess you can't really see that. So we're going to distribute that x squared in. So x squared times x squared is going to give me x to the fourth. And then you're going to have a 3, okay? Basically, we're taking 1 times 3. Remember, you're multiplying those coefficients. For the next one, 1 times 4 is 4. X squared, and then there's actually an exponent of 1 with that 4x. So we need to multiply x squared times x to the first, which means we need to add the exponents and get x cubed. X squared times a negative 5 is going to give us a negative 5x squared. So this right here is your final answer for number 5. All right, let's take a look at number 6. So for number 6, again, we need to distribute, but we're only going to distribute into the direct following parenthesis. So notice the first one I put into the first 3, and the second one I put into the second 3. So here, this is the same as x to the first. Well, x to the first times x squared is going to give me x cubed. X to the first times 2x is going to be 2. And remember that this is also x to the first. So x to the first times x to the first is 2x squared. So we have minus 9, and then we get x. Plus x squared times 3x. So x squared times x to the first is going to be x cubed. Negative 2 times x squared is negative 2x squared. So now we need to go ahead and combine like terms. So I notice that x cubed, and then I have 3x cubed. Well, this x cubed is going to have a 1 out in front of it. So 1x cubed plus 3x cubed is going to be 4x cubed. Well, 2x squared minus 2x squared, those are actually going to cancel out. And then you just have left minus 9x. So that right there is your final answer for number 6. Let's go ahead and take a look at number 7. Number 7 is going to be really similar. You're going to distribute that x squared into this parenthesis, and you're going to distribute the x into that parenthesis. So now let's go ahead and distribute. Okay, so when we distribute, we have x squared times 3x. Remember, that's the same as 1x squared. So 1 times 3 is 3, and again, there's that little exponent of 1 on that x. So x squared times x to the first is x cubed. X squared times 4 is 4x squared. So now we want to take that negative x to the first and distribute it in. Negative x to the first times x squared is negative x cubed when you add those exponents together. And then negative 1 times 2 is going to give me negative 2. X to the first times x to the first is going to give me x squared. Negative x minus 9x, well, two negatives multiplied together are going to become a positive, and then you get 9x. So here we have 3x cubed minus 1x cubed. That's going to be 2x cubed. 4x squared minus 2x squared. 4 minus 2 is 2. And that's just going to be x squared. Again, you're not adding the exponents. And then lastly, you're going to have 9x. So that's your final answer for number 7. So taking a look at number 8 is where you need to use the box method. So I'm going to go ahead and set up my box. I'm going to do x plus 3 on the top. Again, I don't have to write that plus, but I do want to make sure that when I write out that box, I know that that 3 is negative. Well, this is the same as a 1x. 4 times 1 is 4. Now remember that each of these x's have a 1 in the exponent. X to the first times x to the first is x squared. 4 times 3 is 12, and then I have x. Negative 3 times 1 is negative 3, and then x. Negative 3 times 3 is going to be a negative 9. So now I'm going to go ahead and I am going to write out all of those terms. Okay, now I can combine these middle two terms because they're both x. So I have 4x squared plus 12x minus 3x is going to be 9x, and then we're going to have minus 9. So this right here is your answer for number 8. Next, let's take a look at number 9. Please don't make the mistake of distributing in the exponents on number 9. Okay, I want to make sure you know that x plus 4 squared is the same as x plus 4 times x plus 4. So then what we're going to do is multiply that out. So we have x plus 4, x plus 4. So now we can multiply into the box. X times x is x squared. 4 times x is 4x. 4 times x is 4x, and 4 times 4 is 16. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to write out each of my terms separately. Now I want to add those two terms together. 4x plus 4x is 8x, and then plus 16. So that's your final answer for number 9. So taking a look at number 10, the first thing I want to do is take care of that 2 on the outside. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to distribute that 2 in. So 2 times x is 2x, 2 times 4 is going to give you 8. Okay, then I'm going to take that binomial and I'm going to multiply it by x squared plus 3x minus 5. Notice how I only distributed it in to one of the two parentheses. So now let's go ahead and create our box. This box is going to be 2 by 3. So we have 2x plus 8 here, x squared plus 3x. And again, I want to make sure I know that that's a minus 5 or a negative 5 when I go to distribute that in. So 2x squared, remember, or 2x to the first times x squared. Well, that's going to stay 2. X to the first times x squared is x cubed. 2 times 3 is 6. X to the first times x to the first is x squared. 2 times negative 5 is negative 10, and then you have x. 8 times x squared is 8x squared. 8 times 3 is going to give you 24, and then you're just going to have x. And 8 times negative 5 is going to give you a negative 40. So let's go ahead and let's write out all of those terms. So we have 2x cubed plus 6x squared minus 10x plus 8x squared plus 24x minus 40. So now I want to combine some like terms. So I'm going to have 2x cubed out on top. Then I need to take 6x squared plus 8x squared. And that's going to give us 14x squared. And then I'm going to take negative 10x plus 24x. And that's going to give me a positive 14x. Again, notice that when I'm combining those, I'm not adding the exponents. Last but not least, you have minus 40. So that right there is your final answer for number 10. Let's take a look at reading through that word problem. It says a taxi service in Farmington charges a flat fee of $8 for a ride. So what that means is no matter how far you go, you put your butt in that taxi seat, you're going to pay $8. In addition to the charge, it is $4.50 for street driving and 55 cents highway driving per mile. Suppose Zach took a taxi total of 12 miles, with D of those miles being street driving. Write an expression. So I know that for every D mile he goes on the street, it's going to cost me 40 cents. Now let's think about this logically, right? It costs 40 cents to drive D miles, okay? So let's say we know we went 12 miles. So let's say I know that 4 of those miles were on the street. So 4 of those miles were on the street. To get the number on the highway, we would simply take 12 minus 4, which would give us 8 miles on the highway. So that's what we're going to do here, except we're going to do it with D. So it's going to be 55 cents for highway driving. So we know there's a 12 total miles, and that we need to subtract off the D of them that we know were in the city. So now what we want to do is simplify this expression. So what I'm going to do first is distribute. So I'm going to take that 55 and distribute it in. So that's going to be equal to 8 plus 40D. Then 0.55 times 12 is going to give me 6.6 minus negative 1 times 0.55 is a negative 0.55D. So now I need to combine 0.40D and negative 0.55D. And when I do that for my bill, I get negative 0.15D. Now the D's can't be added with those two terms because they have a D and the others don't. So then I'm going to take my two constants, 8 and 6.6, and I am going to get 14.6. So this equation right here represents your setup. And that concludes your note video for today. Thank you for listening.